Hello boys, hello girls. You are now watching if you're on YouTube and listening if you're on SoundCloud or Stitcher or any other thing that's on my RSS feed, maybe my iTunes or whatever. You're now tuned into the very last Peter Talks episode ever. And I say this because I'm changing names. I'm changing formats. And I will be back more often. All right. This video right here is my 2017 year in wrestling, mostly WWE. Maybe I'll mention something with New Japan. Maybe I'll mention something with ROH because I do follow those. But for the most part, when it comes to wrestling news and happenings and this, that, and the other, the WWE is basically the it's the foundation. I figured because if I tried to do the year in wrestling, I mean, it'd be a 5-hour podcast, and the last thing you guys want to do is listen to me talk for that long. I'm gonna try to at least get this done in an hour because I'm starving too. But this will be basically my swan song for this idea of Peter Talks, and I will be moving on to a new format that hasn't really been formalized yet. It's thoughts. It's in the thought process now. I have the name of the show though, and I want to call it the Glorified House Show with Peter Day. And what I want to do is pay-per-views and topics, but like be more often and try to hit up more hot topics. Not like hour-long shows. But like maybe 30-minute shows, 20-minute shows, maybe even 15-minute shows where I'm just like, well, this thing has come up and I have something to say about it. One of the biggest setbacks of doing this podcast over the years is that they are extremely long. And with extremely long podcasts comes extremely long processing because I do video, I do audio, and you have the live, maybe an hour and a half, 2-hour podcast. But then I also have to process it. So we're talking real time and then upload. And I want to get out of that. That's why I kind of drifted away from doing podcasts as long as I have over the past couple of months. Because that time I devote to making T-shirts now. Like, that's my new occupation. When I first started doing this podcast, I had a screen print job, but I didn't take it by the reins for myself. So now I run my own screen printing department. I also print my own tees. This is one that I'm wearing now. If you like it, the link will be in the description box in both whatever you're listening to, podcast stream or YouTube. It'll go to my Etsy site with a bunch of stuff. I mean, I'm from Greensboro, so there's be a lot of Greensboro stuff on there, but I got some other things on there I think the average person would like, especially this shirt. So if you like this shirt, you dig this shirt, buy this shirt. It's cheap. But yeah, outside of this, I just don't have enough time to make these super long podcasts anymore. And it's just easy for me to just like punch in and punch out with like something that's floating around the internet. Now, not everything. I'm talking about the heavy hit. Not like if someone gets injured or like just something silly. I'm talking about like heavy hitting shit. Like maybe a big name, doing something happened and this, that, and the other. I think that's key. The bigger podcast. The bigger pay-per-views that are going to happen, specifically Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. I know I'm going to cover those. I may cover some takeovers whatever has the the bigger dialogue. I will cover maybe some New Japan stuff, maybe some ROH stuff like I did before, but like in smaller portions. So, well, in smaller portions of a show. So that means I can post more. So look forward to that. That's one of my things in 2018 because I miss doing this. I really do. Don't get it twisted. I'm constantly on forums and stuff, going back and forth with people, just seeing how people overreact over certain things, and it's just like, come on, guys. In the end, it's wrestling. Very much like this Paige situation. It's like her getting injured and Sasha Banks and this overreaction. I just think some of it's just so silly. But other than that, enough about that. Again, 2018. Look forward to, and I think the first episode will be my coverage of the Royal Rumble, right? I'm going to do a prediction, and then I'm going to do an actual review, but I'm also going to pick a topic, and I'm going to focus on that topic for maybe 10 minutes and just give you my thoughts on that topic, and then I'll do a shot review without having to go into any. Seriously, I say it, I never accomplish it, but it's going to be no more than maybe 15 to 20 minutes worth of commentary, both commentary and review. So, with that said, if you guys are still listening right now, or even watching, I'm going to go into the 2017 WWE in review. There's no rhyme or reason to any of this. There's no, January to December, none of that stuff. It's certain things that stood out to me that happened this year in the WWE that, shape the year, right? And again, if I may leave some things out, I may leave some wrestlers out because there's so much stuff it's hard to cover it all unless, I grabbed myself an observer and decided to, read that or like go to someone else's stuff. This was stuff, I just sort of scouted around stuff that I remembered. And this is a list that I came up with. I mean, if you can see it right here, well, you can't see it, especially if you're just listening. But I made a list of different things that I thought mattered. So these are the things I'm going to start with. And again, there's no rhyme or reason. But I will start with WWE releases this year, right? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to, go through this list and just say a little something about something because the list is so big. The list is so big. And I'm going to just say a little blurb and I'm going to keep it moving so I can keep this short. Some things are bigger than others, so I will speak more on these things. But right now, I'm going to start with people who were released this year, maybe at the end of last year into this year. Kenny and Mickie from the Spirit Squad came back at the end of 2016, and they joined The Miz, and I think started the whole Miz-Taraj idea. But those poor saps, they didn't stick around for long, so they got released. Simon Gotch got released as well. He's about to make his debut on ROH, I think, very soon if he hasn't already. But he was a bit of a problem. He kept getting in fights with different guys once he came up to the main roster, and they just had to let him go. Tajiri, he had a short stint. He came back for the Cruiserweight Classic. They brought him up for a couple of matches on 205 Live, but I guess they wanted to just use him for what it was and then get him out of there to bring in younger talent. He got a paycheck. I don't think he's mad at all. Emma, probably one of the more shocking releases because she was the debut match against Asuka. They gave her 2 matches, like 2 long drawn out matches. And, she lost, but she had offense the entire time, and would probably get choked out at the end. But, like, I think she had a nice little fan base in the WWE. And, it looked like she was getting a little bit of push, involving her online presence and things of that nature. But it came out of nowhere when, she lost to Asuka, and then she got released. One of the things that plagued her, I guess, in her existence in the WWE is that shoplifting episode when she got caught shoplifting, I think a laptop cover or something like this. Something silly, something very asinine. And she's been suffering from it ever since. They sent her down to NXT, and she reinvented herself as Evil Emma. She ended up becoming friends with, I guess they paired her up with, I can't even think of her name right now, but she's not really good, so maybe that's why I don't remember her name. It'll hit me in a minute, maybe, but it's not important. They basically gave her a tag team partner, gave her a homie to run with, and then they brought her up to the main roster, and it seemed like they were going to do something with her. Then they decided to overhaul her character, this pretty thing. I don't know, and it didn't work out. So she went back to Evil Emma. I mean, she suffered an injury as well, but nevertheless, her WWE run is something that is suspect. I definitely would have seen her as one of the bigger stars even today, if any of this stuff had ever happened. When they paired her up with why am I drawing a blank with everything right now? With the snake, what the fuck is his name? Well, anyway, they paired her up with that comedy act. God almighty, this is gonna drive me crazy. Santino, they paired her up with Santino Marella, and it looks like they were running with something there, and then he retired. It just wasn't something meant to be. Maybe she'll be back later. I don't know. They're not too kind to older women wrestlers, even though they brought back Mickie James. But maybe that's it for Emma in the WWE. Maybe that's it. I don't think she's that polarizing for them to even think to bring her back for any reason. She's had her run. There's a lot of indie out there. I think she'd probably make a great living with, and wish her the best of luck. But that's the longest I'll probably talk of anybody from this release list. Darren Young, he got released. When he came out as gay, it was weird. Then the whole make Darren Young great again, and he feuded against his tag team partner with Titus O'Neil with the whole, he just couldn't win. And it looked like the make Darren Young great again thing looked like it was going to be something, but the execution was just horrible. And then they just finally let him go. I mean, he has great upside in the indies. I think even the Bullet Club just recently posted a picture with the rainbow colors with a bullet Club shirt for him. I think one of the things, understanding that he's gay in his identity, but whenever I don't know if y'all noticed too, but he would make his arms like this as an intro. It was like the equal sign. Maybe that's a little trivia that you didn't know, but it was promote equality. you also had a I think it's one thing to be gay. It's one thing to be gay as your gimmick. I think Darren Young, more than anything, is just an amazing athlete, and he's an amazing wrestler. And to have a gay gimmick doesn't really add on anything specifically, other than the fact that maybe he'll bring in gay revenue. But as a wrestler, I don't think he's so good that that's not something that he needs to focus on as a gimmick. You don't want your livelihood, your sexuality to be a gimmick. You want that to be you. You want to separate those two. But that's just my opinion. Summer Rae, she's a Raleigh girl. She's done a bunch of movies. She's been jobbing out. I mean, I thought she was just going to be a steady hand moving forward, but with the influx of women that came in, and I think her upside was what it was, and they had nothing else for her, so they let her go. James Ellsworth. Man, I am rusty. He was part of the Money in the Bank holding duo of I can't even. God damn it! It doesn't even. I can't even remember her fucking name. But right now she holds the Money in the Bank briefcase, and she and Ellsworth were a dynamic duo for a hot minute. Now, out of the blue, they decided to change that dynamic and made him into a pet. Right? At first, he was just like Ellsworth, right? He came in, he was like this guy with a fighting chance. He debuted, I think, against Braun Strowman, and he got his ass whooped. And then I think the demand was so high, and I think maybe he got over in the office that they brought him back, and they put him in some meaningful storylines. He's undefeated against AJ Styles, I think, in 3 matches. I think he's still undefeated. I think, yeah. And a couple of other things. Why can't I come up with this chick's name? It's gonna drive me crazy. Well, anyway, they paired them up after everything that he went through on the regular roster, and he became a big component of the women's division, actually helping Homegirl. I'm embarrassed by not remembering her name. She's not that important. She holds the Money in the Bank. That's how sad the WWE is as of late. When your Money in the Bank holder, either male or female, is just rendered, to nothing, to where the average person who watches the product every fucking week doesn't remember the name of the person who's carrying the fucking briefcase. I should just be able to say her name, and it'll hit me soon. But if it is not flying off the tongue right now, then we have a major, major problem. Okay. But anyway, they flipped the script on his role, and I think they just ended up just getting rid of him altogether. Good for him, for a person of his looks and his stature and all this thing. He completely lived the dream. He lived the dream. Carmella is her fucking name. Sorry. Carmella is her name. But he lived the dream. He lived the dream. And a lot of guys who are fit, the good-looking guys, probably can cut a good promo, probably been working the indie scenes forever, would not even come close. They won't even sniff the success of a guy to the stature of Ellsworth. And, good for him. Good for him. He got his paycheck. And and he lived the dream. And I guess the biggest one, and whatever, more notable is the releasing of Jim Johnston. And that was nothing more than a money save. They're cutting back. If anything, Jim Johnson, he made all the music from the 80s through the 90s for WWE. And they've switched over to, other music people. People were kind of pissed off about this, which was weird. I find it, I think it's interesting that people were really worked up about the releasing of him. And he basically didn't have any more value to the company. I mean, if you just wanted to kind of keep him on staff as like an advisor or somebody on hand, that's great. But for what they were paying him, I don't think, I think as a company, if I was someone who was doing the books or calling the shots, I would have let him go too. Like, it's not like he's deserving to keep that job forever. He's paid out of the ass, and I imagine he still gets royalties for the music that he's made for those guys, right? Maybe he's on a Legends contract or what have you, but I think everyone was saying how it was like the end of the world that the great Jim Johnson had gotten fired or released. It's like, well, no, someone tell me what kind of a job he could have done. They moved on. If anything, he was just getting a check for just breathing or the things that he had done in the past. He did a lot of great things, no doubt, but I don't think he's above getting fired. And if I left anything out, hit me up, send me a tweet at Ellen Japanese, one word, LINJAPANESC. You can send me something there, and I'll come back and talk about it. And with releases, let's go into people who returned. Late 2016, you had the return of Mickie James, and now she's on the main roster. Again, I made a comment earlier about the WWE not being kind to older women wrestlers. They try to keep them young as possible, but they brought her back. Mickie James looks great. I think she didn't get the fanfare that she's deserving because I think there's a newer generation of wrestling fans that either A, know nothing about her, or B, don't care. When she came back to NXT and fought Asuka, that was probably the biggest challenge that Asuka has had. And the only reason why she even won is because she was able to get that chicken wing on. But she came to the main roster and to nothing. And who's to say that maybe after this Women's Royal Rumble, they're just going to move on. They just brought on some new girls, and a space for Mickie James is very, there's no real space for her anymore for what they want to accomplish with her. She had a feud. She had a feud that involved her age. I don't know. I feel bad for her. I don't feel that bad for her because she has a fucking great paycheck for what she's done. She came back. She's getting paid. She's living out, again, her childhood dream of wrestling for the biggest company in the world. Maybe she has a little bit of tutelage or what have you. I think she would have been a great. I think she would have had a great presence on Total Divas or something, but apparently, I guess they didn't want to focus on her. But for the most part, good for her. She's back. I enjoy her being back. Again, I think she's extremely hot. But we'll see how long she'll last. The return of the Hardy Boys. The return of the Hardy Boys. They actually came back for WrestleMania. And they're a great nostalgia act. They still get huge pops. The whole thing was that they were going to come over and bring over the whole broken gimmick. They went through a big old fucking lawsuit, whatever, with TNA or Impact Wrestling or fuck they want to call themselves. And after all of that, after everything that they went through, installing basically the entire Woken universe for an entire year, basically just say an entire year, they just went on and let him use it. And they've used it to a certain degree. Again, he's now Woken Matt, not Broken Matt Hardy. And he needed to be Broken Matt if there was ever a time he needed to be it, is now, because Jeff Hardy suffered another injury. He's going to be out, and I think he went under the knife, so he's going to be out for quite some time. So yeah, the Hardy Boys returned. They actually won the tag team championships in a ladder match at last year's WrestleMania, WrestleMania 2017, and they still get big pops. But outside of the injury to Jeff, Matt is now Woken, and they're just starting this universe. So, in the eyes of the WWE, we just only have to wait and see how that turns out. Maybe it is a return, because it's still a decent return. The return of Chris Jericho. He left and came back again. He leaves and come back, leaves and come back, leaves and come back. But this time he had a really good run with a bunch of gimmicks. And for the most part, the more notable gimmick was the list. The list of Jericho. And it was probably the most over thing in all of wrestling. In any and all aspects of the wrestling universe, even outside of WWE. And he had a friendship thing going with Kevin Owens that ended up resulting into one of the bigger storylines, the more like impactful storylines, and one of the impactful scenes of the year of the Festival of Friendships, or the Friendship, the Friends, whatever the fuck that thing was called, and Kevin Owens turning on Chris Jericho. But that was really fun. The list, all that stuff. Most importantly, like, people claiming that this is probably the best run he's ever had, which is not true, but still, at his age and almost having his career ended to his back, and DDP Yoga helped out with that stuff, but the guy is a testament, man. The guy's a testament to a lot of things I think most wrestlers should aspire to be, especially like reinventing yourself, not being afraid to reinvent yourself, not being afraid to tell people how to run your shit. He runs his own shit. He's no yes man, right? The WWE getting him is no favor. It's a favor that he comes back to the WWE, because like they don't have to worry about him. He knows what he's doing, and he's cut from a cloth that, for the most part, has died out. All those guys that he came from, all those dudes do not wrestle anymore, or are dead. And he's still out there clanging and banging, and he's part of one of the biggest storylines in wrestling today against Kenny Omega. Like, the guy is amazing. We share the same birthday, November 9th, which is even cooler. But Chris Jericho, man, that guy, the day that his career ends, it's not going to be because he chose to. I guarantee you that. And it won't be because no one cares. That guy has submitted himself, okay? Let's move faster through this. Shelton Benjamin, the return of Shelton Benjamin. He actually was about to come back a year and a half ago, maybe even 2. He got hurt, kept him out. He's tagged up with Chad Gable because they took Jason Jordan and put him over on Raw. Right now, they're a little bit of a heel faction. But man, oh man, is it fun to watch those guys wrestle. But yeah, the return of Shelton Benjamin. The return of Drew Galloway. Drew McIntyre. He got cut. He was part of 3MB. He started off as a chosen one. That turned into crap. 3MB, they all got cut. All of them. Well, not all of them. Well, McIntyre and Mahal got cut, and they both made their way back to the WWE. Galloway ended up going back to the Irish League, whatever, Ireland Wrestling, and then came back to TNA, and then ended up back on NXT. Unfortunately, he just suffered an injury in the last move at the last TakeOver Championship match against Cien Almas, Andrade Cien Almas. Like, he grabbed the rope. It was so weird. I don't understand why he grabbed that rope, but like, he grabbed the rope and he fucking tore his fucking bicep, and the rest is what it is. We'll see when he comes back. I don't think he's going to come back to NXT, but it's great to see that he'll probably go straight to the main roster, but it's great to see that he worked his ass off to get back to the good graces of the WWE and be champion. And, you know, with a gimmick overhaul, he's one bad dude. And I think if he wouldn't have hurt himself, I don't think we'd be looking at Almas as as a champion. I think it was a shoot. I think it was a last second change in a situation that was, you know, unexpected. The return of Paige. Oh man, and we talk about, we're not even gonna. It's been a crazy roller coaster with her and her relationship with Alberto Del Rio. Released sex tapes, the making of a movie of her life and her family because of The Rock. But for the most part, she's been out because of an injury. She had some sort of neck injury, and she went under the knife, and no one was even sure if she was going to come back just for that alone. But man, was her life. She was off the camera, but she definitely wasn't out of the fucking spotlight with everything that happened with her. I think I heard more news about Paige not wrestling than I heard about her. That I heard about even wrestlers, active wrestlers. Again, unfortunately, she just got hit with a stinger. There's a clip floating around of Sasha Banks kicking her in the back of the back of her neck, and it was pretty, you know, it was rough to watch. Paige, but she was still trying to stop the hot tag, which I thought was interesting. Man, I gotta move faster. But yeah, she's back, and she's part of a crew called Absolution with Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, and we'll see what happens with this. Goldberg, the return of Goldberg, that was late last year. He ended up, I think, for SummerSlam. He lasted until last year's. WrestleMania with his feud with Brock Lesnar, and it was interesting to say the least. And the return of Kurt Angle in the general manager role over at Raw. They have a storyline with him and Jason Jordan being his illegitimate son. So, let's go into call-ups to the main roster. Okay, I think a lot of these exceed at the ass end of 2016. Okay, so I'll just include that. Right, so Samoa Joe, who's right now kicking ass and taking names. I mean, he didn't lose to Roman Reigns, but he just got his ass handed to him. You would think that him and Triple H were in cahoots at some point. He was part of the Authority, but he got hurt. They changed his storyline up, whatever. Right now, he's the Samoan machine, and he's just laying waste to motherfuckers left and right. And most notably, the return of the Shield. He's just been terrorizing the Shield, and which resulted in a storyline in him basically taking out Dean Ambrose. So kudos to Samoa Joe. He's really been doing a great job. I'll mention the most notable thing, his match against Brock Lesnar. And it was a very convincing match. He didn't win, but there's, in storyline, Brock is a little bit scared of him, which makes for a really good, I guess, to keep him a badass, keep him tough, keep him relevant. But what we got? The American Alpha. They actually came up again maybe late 2016. They came in, immediately won the tag team championships, and then they broke them up. For some reason, they just kept them off TV, and then they ran with the storyline where Jason Jordan is the illegitimate son of Kurt Angle, and Shelton Benjamin and got teamed up with Chad Gable. Now, I guess the biggest beef is that most people thought that it would have been Chad Gable who would have been the illegitimate son. They look more like, they move more like. I mean, Chad Gable is like the fucking clone of Kurt Angle, but they decided to go with the blue chipper in Jason Jordan, and he's holding his own, but I think people just don't like the storyline for the most part. Asuka, the debut of Asuka, she came in and she fought Emma, which resulted in Emma getting released, but for the most part, she's undefeated. She's still kicking ass, taking names. They're trying to run a storyline with her in Absolution, but she's still undefeated. I think they got her dancing too much. I mean, I get it. It's like her and Nakamura kind of in the same boat with the fact they're just kind of fruity dancers. But the difference between Nakamura and Asuka is that Asuka is winning, and she's not in stupid storylines, and she's not made out to be a fool just yet. So we'll see moving forward. Austin Aries, who left, but they brought him up to the main roster, and him and Neville had a feud, a very good feud for the 205 championship belt, pretty much all year until Austin Aries decided to leave. What kept him out for a long period of time is I think he broke his face somehow. I think from a Kinshasa from Nakamura, but yeah, split his face open. His shit was all fucked up. But when he finally came back, I mean, it was pretty cool. He got to wrestle Neville for the belt in WrestleMania, but I think it just didn't work for him. But he was a call-up. The Revival, who just can't stay healthy. Ty Dillinger, who plays a mid-card role right now. I mean, he got popular. That Perfect 10 gimmick. I mean, when the referee does the count out, people are yelling 10 the whole time. So, I mean, he has his fans, but he's relegated to mid-card, almost jobber status. Shinsuke Nakamura, I mean, I'll throw him on here, but he had been called up. I think he had been called up at the end of last year, but nevertheless, it's a very disappointing call-up, to say the least. I'll say that. He was jobbed out to Jinder Mahal, and that just goes to show where he stands right now. The Canellises, well, I wouldn't call them a call-up. They didn't even go through the NXT thing, which they should have, because that theme song is NXT ready, right? I'm almost to the mind that they got the paycheck, decided to have a family, because Kanellis is out pregnant, and Maria Kanellis is out pregnant, and whatever the fuck his name is, I can't think of his name right now. I'm sorry. Matt, is it Matt? No. It's not even important because he doesn't even have a role. It looks like they would have done something with him, but it got shot down. I think it was him and Sami Zayn or something. Michael Bennett, yeah, that's his name, Michael Bennett. But now he's just doing jobs. Elias Sampson. He's my favorite. He's my favorite of all the call-ups so far. He was hated so much in NXT. He got the opportunity to come up to the main roster. He's doing the same gimmick, but I think he's giving a little more range to speak, and he's just running down different towns, and he's holding his own. I think he's treading. He's had great matches. They're trying with him, and that's the only thing I'll say about him. They're trying. They're really trying with him. I think they can really get a good heel out of him, or possibly a good babyface, depending on how well he does being an asshole. You got Bobby Roode. His NXT run wasn't that great to me. It was short-lived. And then they bring him up as a babyface. I mean, he's still babyfacing it up. I think he's been on the main roster maybe like half a year now. And he's still babyfacing it up, which is sort of weird because his gimmick is very heelish. And we'll see what happens with him. He's in mid-card hell fighting for the U.S. Championship. You also have the Riot Squad, Liv Morgan, Sarah Logan with Ruby Riott. You have Absolution with Paige, the return of Paige, Mandy Rose, and Sonya Deville. I just tune her out. Actually, can they get the most mediocre girls out of NXT to fill in these roles? I mean, they could have stayed down at NXT a little bit longer and just bring up like maybe Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, or hell, even bring up Ember Moon. I think the fact that she couldn't defeat Asuka they left her for dead down there, man. It kind of sucks. They could have brought up somebody. They could even brought some girls out of the Mae Young Classic. But these vanillas, they're so vanilla, and they still look like, they're like deer in headlights, man, out there. And it's sad to watch. It's sad to watch. Ugh. But we're going to talk more about that women's revolution in a bit. Hideo Itami, just recently. And they're trying to run with the gimmick now that he just keeps injuring people. Now, we're just off a storyline right now. Not a storyline, but an issue right now where Paige took a bad kick and got a stinger, but it looked really bad. And with Dean Ambrose getting injured and this, that, and the other. So you got to tread lightly with this stuff, right? But he broke one of the reasons why the revival haven't been, on TVs, because that fucking go to sleep actually broke Dawson's jaw. And now, just recently, it tread lightly on injuries being a work or shoot. But you have, just last week, supposedly, him breaking the orbital bone and nose of the Brian Kendrick, right? And motherfuckers are up in arms about this. And I think, to make a long story short, the ref didn't throw up the X. And I think they're trying to work up this GTS being a very, very dangerous move and nothing more. But people are really convinced that Hideo Itami has just got to go, very much like Sasha Banks in the injury with Paige. So those are the call-ups. Again, if I miss anything out, if I missed anything, just let me know, and I'll give my thing on that. Let's talk about the NXT Reload. 2017, there was an NXT Reload. What happened with NXT after they gutted it out of like the Sasha Banks and the Baileys and the Finn Balor's and so on and so forth? They took all the biggest stars. They brought them up to the main roster. Tyler Breeze, Um, uh, what the hell is his name? Yeah, I hate when I draw blanks on motherfuckers. Whatever. Apollo Crews, that's his name. um, and when they took all these people and they brought in some more people, right? And they just couldn't get over to save their lives. They even brought in Shinsuke, you know, they brought in Samoa Joe, they brought in all these people. But like they were like left for dead on a roster that was gutted. So what happened over the past couple of months is that the NXT has been trying to rebuild. And, you know, it's become less of a homegrown development because all those people, maybe they did some indies and what have you, but like they are WWE creations. And now NXT has become basically a full-blown indies, like all-star indie promotion where they're, you know, they got their guys that they're developing, but it's mostly ran by indie people. And they had to restock and reload that NXT roster like you wouldn't believe over the past couple of months. And I think at one point it was like, you know, it was last year. I mean, it was floundering, man. And there was even discussions about it. And I was just like, because it's part of the 6 degrees of separation, right? The idea of 6 degrees of separation is we have a limit, you know. Not only that, like, we all know each other within 6 people. We get that. But, like, also, there's this theory that we only have a capacity to care for so many things, right? And when we care for things, we attach to those things. We keep them to a limit. So you take NXT, right? And you give us these stars. You give us these stars. I think I spoke about this in another, but I'll make it concise. You give us these stars. You have us watch them grow. We watch them, you know, go through hard times, good times. We become fans. We become attached. We have a bit of a ownership to it to a certain degree, and it's tough. You can't, you know, when those people move up to the main roster, we will stick to the brand, but we're much more stuck to the individuals. And I think that was one of the miscalculations of the NXT development thing, is that they didn't think that people would just follow the people that they brought up. You know, they made into a thing. They didn't think that. Like, what are you thinking? People move on. They move with the people. You know, they don't just say, "Oh yeah, NXT." You had some faithfuls, obviously, but that was a huge gutting out of that sort of 2015 class. Huge. And as of late, they finally got some people in there that sticking around a little bit longer, and people have grown to appreciate. So I'm going to go down this, and I don't plan on, maybe I'll figure out, you know, maybe I'll talk briefly about somebody, but let's start with the iconic duo, Peyton Royce and Billie Kay, who have been, you know, basically jobbers at one point but now it was like wide open because the more Alexa Bliss, that's what I was thinking about earlier. All those people moved up. It gave them an opportunity to basically, you know, get the opportunity to be on TV, and they became the iconic duo. They're kind of pesky, but at the same time, they're very developed in their characters, and they're great wrestlers. And, you know, you either love them or you hate them, but they're good, and they get respect from the NXT universe, which they didn't have before, but now they do, because they do their shit really well. They reloaded with Rude. I just spoke about Rude. They added Aleister Black. I forgot what his name was prior to that, but like he was a guy who was a PWG guy, and you know, they got him as a ruthless killer. He just got pinned for the first time in that 4-on-4 to be the number one contendership. But until then, he's just been kicking ass and taking names. Really good feud with the Velveteen Dream. Probably one of the best feuds of the year. It was short lived, but the statement that it made and the match itself was really awesome. Drew Galloway, I just spoke about him. They reloaded with him. Roderick Strong, they brought him up and they made him kind of the poster boy for the hometown boy that, is trying to do right by his family, trying to do right for the good of the people. They're trying to make him to basically as big of a, homegrown hometown boy, like a Larry Bird, white meat baby face that you've ever seen. So far it's working, because when he first came, no one gave a fuck. I mean, I became a fan of his during ROH. One match he had against Jay Lethal. It was a Broadway match. I think they had 2 Broadway matches, and just like, whew, this guy's incredible. But anyway, Roderick Strong, they reloaded with Sanity, which is Eric Young, and a couple, Alexander Wolf, Killian Dane, and the girl, the fuck is her name? It'll hit me in a minute, but nevertheless, that's Sanity. Their little faction. Nikki Cross is her name. Their little faction. They started off kind of rough around the edges. Now they're making some noise. They just won the tag team championship. The Alexander Wolf guy got hurt at the last NXT TakeOver War Games, and they just lost the belts. Who just won the belts? They lost it to somebody. Anyway, it's not even. It's so funny. The tag team belts are in NXT. They don't get enough TV time. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Well, anyway, you have Ember Moon, who is now the NXT Women's Champ. What hurts her is that she didn't get to defeat Asuka. She didn't get to defeat Asuka, and she's on this very talentless women's NXT roster right now. She's kind of like she's in no man's land. We want to get behind her as a champion, but she's kind of plastic for the fact that she didn't beat Asuka. They didn't pull the trigger on Asuka. They brought in Ruby Riott, who's now on the main roster. They brought in Otis Dojovic and Trucker Knight, who are called Heavy Machinery. They're fun to watch. The Velveteen Dream, again, that motherfucker. I'll be honest, I didn't know what to really fucking think of this guy when he changed. I can't think of his real name, but he changed his gimmick to this sort of overly flamboyant character. I was like, what the fuck is this? But man, I saw it with the whole Aleister Black feud. That's a big dude, man, and he's a phenomenal wrestler. I think he got even bigger, because I think he came in, he was up stature, but I think he just started fucking going hard at it, man. And I like his character a lot now. And I think once he comes back from, I think he's got injured, small injury. He got Aleister Black to say his name. Man, when he comes back, I'm all about the Velveteen Dream, okay? I'm all about the I'll say right now that he's probably, out of this entire list of guys, is my favorite wrestler on that roster today. Got the Undisputed Era with Bobby Cole, Adam Cole, baby, Adam Fish. I can't even think right. I'm so sorry, guys. Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly. All right, and these guys are coming directly over from ROH. They're the new tag team champions right now. I think Fish and O'Reilly, who were once called Red Dragon, and Cole, he got his first defeat real early in that. to see who's going to take place in the Fatal 4-Way, to see who's the number one contender to Cien Almas's championship. We'll see what happens with them, man. I mean, I guess I like those guys. I'm sick of the whole Adam Cole baby chant. I'm really tired of it. It's too much. It's overkill. And maybe that's what they were supposed to do. Maybe that's how he's going to heal up. But we'll see how these guys play out. I hope when they come to the main roster, they get treated well. Especially Fish and O'Reilly. I like those guys a lot. I was a big Red Dragon fan. Cassius Ohno, he came back. He's fat. They can't pull the trigger on him. He's just something, man. Like, maybe he's big bone. I don't know, but like, he's not doing himself any favors by not working on his body. You also have Oni Lorcan and Danny Burch, who are just smash mouth. They became a tag team. They're just awesome. They just beat the fuck out of each other. They had a nice little feud where they were just beating each other to death out of like I think 5 matches or whatever, and ended up tag team partners. They're not doing much as tag team partners, just getting their asses handed to them. I wish that changes. I hope that changes. You have Johnny Gargano, the rise of Johnny Gargano after his split up with DIY. Well, actually, that tag team in general. Just say DIY in general. With Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. Tommaso Ciampa suffered an injury, and he's been out for a long time. He's been out for even a little longer. Or maybe he's coming back soon. We'll see what happens. They just gave Johnny Gargano a win over Lars Sullivan, Killian Dane, and Aleister Black to tell the story of getting screwed out of the belt by Tommaso Ciampa. It just goes to show how much time has flew by. But man, they love some fucking Johnny Gargano. He is the ultimate babyface. He's the favorite of anyone on NXT right now. Lars Sullivan, I brought him up. He's a fucking monster. They brought him up as a tag team guy every time. His tag team partner would lose. He just beat the shit out of him. And now he's just a solo monster, just a monster. And he did really well in that Fatal 4-Way. He did better than I thought. Man, when he comes to the main roster, man, look out. Authors of Pain, I throw them in there. Yeah, they had a nice little stint, little run. They've cooled them off a lot. I think the next thing for them to do is just go to the main roster. You got Andre Cien Almas, who is now the champion. He started off lukewarm. They changed his character up. They gave him a ballet, and his whole thing just went from zero to hero almost overnight. He's now the champion. I think her name is Vega. But they are the fucking champions right now. It's amazing. I honestly thought he'd probably give up, but he stuck to it. They didn't give up on him, and that's the thing, man. People don't realize, like, you can't give up on these guys. You know, you try, just like what they're doing with Elias on the main roster. They're not going to give up on the guy. Right? They're just not going to give up on him. They're going to give him a fucking chance and see what happens. And that's what's happened with Almas. They stuck with it, and hopefully when he gets to the main roster, he can work. Probably be even more, but he'll probably just get thrown into the 205 roster. We'll have to see. You had that UK tournament. I'll just throw them into the. I throw this into the NXT roster because they have been part of the NXT roster, but they had the UK tournament, and 2 stars came out of it: Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne, and those guys are, responsible for possibly 3 of the 3 best matches of 2017, which I won't be doing. I'm not doing like a best match this. I ain't doing that shit. Like, it's all arbitrary, honestly. I like a lot of matches. I didn't like a lot of matches. Some stood out, some didn't. But for the most part, I'll let everyone else handle that. But back to Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne, they could possibly, and if, I don't see this UK league manifesting. If anything, I feel like the UK belt will be the secondary belt on the NXT roster. And we'll see what happened to the rest of those guys that were in the UK tournament. Because there's a lot of guys that were in that. And it's going to take some time. But the men's division in NXT is stacked. Unlike the women's division of NXT. I mean, it's stacked to the gills. And they only got but so much time to get guys on. And like guys like No Way Jose. Where the fuck is he? Where the fuck is No Way Jose? And that's a guy who needs to come up to the main roster yesterday. And, give him a nice little mid-card push. I mean, I think he's such a big guy. He's such a big personality. I think he has a lot of promise. Probably out of the entire NXT roster, honestly. The guy is awesome. But they made him a loser against Lars Sullivan. I mean, they just fed him. I mean, it looked like he was like hey, I'm going to whoop your ass. He got sunned not only by Lars, but he also got sunned by fucking Austin Aries, too. So, maybe he's just going to keep him off TV, just bring him up to the main roster. Fresh, fun, and just have him win, have them beat up like guys, like just pieces of shit and raise them up. The guy has a lot of upside. Guy has a lot of potential. Okay, wow, I'm already an hour in. All right. With that right now, with that taken out of the way, oh my God. All right, let's talk about, we'll get into that. Let's go into like some storylines. Let's go quickly into some storylines, right? All right, I already talked about the fun of Chris Jericho and the list. I already talked about that, all right? So his 2017 run was awesome, okay, in the list. Let's move on. The rise of Jinder Mahal, okay? What happened is the WWE took a guy and they tried. They tried with him. And with so much hatred and with so much fucking idiot fucking fanboys that think he didn't deserve anything and whatever. Who cares? I'm not someone screaming the praises of the modern day Maharaja. I think the idea of the modern day Maharaja is fun. The way it was executed was poor. But man, from a guy who got fucking canned from this piece of shit fucking gimmick, which is 3MB, to, if he juiced up, I don't give a fuck. Do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do to get ahead. He fucking did whatever. If he just worked his ass off, he just worked his ass off, right? And he was put in positions to succeed, and he was given a chance on SmackDown to be champion. And he has a lot to be proud of. I'm proud of him, right? He was able to get through 8 months, 8 fucking months of basically headline, he was a headliner. He was a major star. Regardless if he didn't like it or not, he was a major star. And I think more people wanted to see it fail than anything because they wanted AJ Styles to succeed. They wanted Shinsuke Nakamura to succeed. And I get it. I fucking get it. I want those guys to succeed as well. But, like, there's room. There's room on the table, right? There's room to allow people to come in and out, right? AJ Styles can't always be at the top, right? Shinsuke Nakamura can't always be at the top. You got to share that space. You got to rotate that space. You got to see if you have something with anyone. I don't give a fuck if it was for the Indian stuff. Man, get in where you fit in. It's a business. They got a business to run. Even though it failed, they at least tried. So the rise of Jinder Mahal, they created a star. In the end, they created a star. Maybe a star that you didn't like, but a star nevertheless. And it's over with now. I guess the top card part is over. He's moved down to the U.S. Championship, which is completely fine. But like, I guarantee you, any and all those fanboys that hated him as a fucking main event player for the WWE Championship, maybe they'll start cheering for him now that he's in the mid card. And you know what? I feel like Jinder Mahal and whatever genius and creative, just say, I don't need your fucking cheers. All right? Fuck you and fuck all y'all. Y'all should have cheered for me to succeed as a top guy. Oh, now you had me where you want me, and now you're going to cheer me? Fuck you. I hope they do that somehow. I don't need your fucking cheers. Because I feel like he's going to get over as a U.S. champion, as a contender, a mid-card guy. Man, look at him. He played the part. We'll see. I didn't mean for this to turn into a rant. I wanted to just kind of talk about it. But it turned into like, because I'm just fed up with, with this guy. This guy's done nothing to anyone. He was given an opportunity and he's trying to make the best of it. And the WWE gave someone a chance. What's wrong with that? The legend of Braun Strowman, right? Quickly, they made this guy indestructible. They made him he has a loss to Brock Lesnar, but like, okay, right? He just beat the living shit out of Roman Reigns. He was basically murdered by Roman Reigns. He was thrown into a compactor by Kane, and he came back unscathed. He's indestructible. They made him into an indestructible character. And, I'm not a big fan of his character per se, because I think, say, 20 years ago, he'd be jobbing to The Rock. He'd be jobbing to Stone Cold. He'd be jobbing to fucking Chris Jericho. He'd be jobbing to Mankind and Undertaker. He'd be jobbing to all those guys. There's not one single person who could convince me that Braun Strowman, 20 years ago, hell, even 10 years ago, would have held his own against the likes of a Shawn Michaels, hold the likes to a Kurt Angle, to a Edge. Even that, yeah, I wouldn't say so, definitely, because they've manufactured big guys back then who just end up becoming jokes, So I'm happy that he's getting this indestructible push that he's getting, and he has a title shot. Don't call it a title shot to Vince McMahon. He has a championship opportunity. This Royal Rumble in a triple threat with Kane and Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship, but we'll see. We'll see with him moving forward. They seem really devoted to him. He kind of got over overnight to a certain degree. But yeah, I mean, he's a star. He's a main player. He's a main eventer. But they've made him into folklore, basically. Like, he's like Paul Bunyan. So we'll see. Okay, a big story that happened during the year was JBL, B standing for bully. And what happened with Ronald, I can never get his name in, Romello. Fuck it, you know who I'm talking about. He has issues with depression, Ranello, and it seems that there was this situation with JBL where JBL just made his life a living hell, and he basically took a sabbatical for a while to deal with it, and the idea of bullying became this like huge thing in the inner workings of the wrestling industry. Also within, pretty much WWE being the foundation, and the idea of JBL and the idea of ribbing and books being written. Who's that one guy? I can't think of his name. Justin Roberts. He wrote a book that basically focuses on ribbing from everybody from Vince McMahon all the way down to the guys in the locker room, and stories being told. But for the most part, the storyline was JBL, because he was the quintessential bully. And I think it was, the idea of him being in the position that he was in is because Vince knew that he was a bully. He put him in place to sort of be his heavy to the rest of the wrestlers or to the rest of the commentators. And Ranallo took the brunt of it. And for a guy who's called, all these huge matches in UFC and boxing, and to have this guy, to his status, a practical nobody, giving him hell, is just kind of out of place. Almost to the point where he thought, like, this guy thinks he's the big shot. Let me, make his life a living hell, and it be justified. People put their foot down. Fans put their foot down. Ex-employees put their foot down, and it was kind of cool to see. Very much. I mean, I'm not going to compare it, but very much like the Me Too movement that's calling out a lot of the sexual predators that are in show business. It was the same with wrestling. So I don't know how much with ribbing and bullying in wrestling. I'm not sure how much of effect inside, because we don't have a lot of that news cycle in there like that, outside of, say, what the Observer does and what people talk. But it was a hot topic. It became no more than a hot topic and not a movement, which I feel like fell short to a certain degree. But yeah, that was huge news. That was something that, Be a Star came to life for the WWE, not for fucking kids. Not for kids in grade school. AJ Styles, my thing. AJ Styles won't go down. During the rise of the modern day Maharaja, you had a guy, AJ Styles, who was just basically floundering in the mid card, but he refused to flounder. That's the thing. He still held his own. He still saw himself as the top guy. After moving him from Raw and the shake-up and shit over to SmackDown, and then it's just like they kind of took him out the picture. I mean, anytime this guy shows up, probably the loudest ovation you get in any room, next to, say, Daniel Bryan. And maybe they did that. Maybe they did that in the expense of AJ Styles to work out a guy that is Jinder Mahal. He came out unscathed, but for the most part, the guy held his own. 2017 is a testament that if you're just the man, and regardless of what creative has for you or what they have planned for someone else over you, if you truly believe that you're the motherfucking man, then stick your chest out, hold your head high, and just make chicken salad out of chicken shit. And that's exactly what AJ Styles did. On his way back to being the WWE World Champion. And, it deserves a round of applause from any and everybody who loves wrestling, because not everyone has that fucking luxury nowadays, especially like the likes of Shinsuke Nakamura, a guy who's kind of a golden boy in the world of wrestling, and he was rendered to getting his ass handed to by Jinder Mahal, thinking that he would come out okay, right? He didn't come out okay. It damaged his character. It extremely damaged his character. And they got him as this goofy Japanese guy who's wacky. That's what he is. He's wacky. And as much as you want to fucking, you know, believe, right, that maybe at some point in time Shinsuke is going to get, you know, this opportunity to do something. Do something great. They would have already done it, okay? The WWE would have already done it. Now, I haven't lost faith in the WWE giving Shinsuke something. But if you look at what happened with AJ Styles, basically the same treatment. You take these two characters, same treatment, because they wanted to push the modern day Maharaja. AJ was capable of maintaining his status as the face that was it, the face that runs the place, and Shinsuke didn't have that. So kudos to AJ. 2018 is going to be a big year for him, and if it wasn't for them doing the whole Jinder Mahal thing, I think people would still like him, but his surge and hunger for him to succeed in 2018 the hunger wouldn't be there for him just yet, because there's only one Daniel Bryan, okay? That's all I'm saying. Let's move. All right, what else we got? The Shield reunites. That was big news because they just can't get Roman Reigns over on his own. But as of late, it's just been plagued with injury. And the new Shield, well, you had the mumps with Roman Reigns and Kurt Angle filling in for, quote unquote planned, reunion for the Shield. And now just recently, Dean Ambrose is going to be out for like 10 months, because of a fucking arm injury. It just wasn't meant to be. And now, the new tag team champions are Rollins and Jason Jordan. The tag team divisions, ups and downs. And Raw, I don't think Raw even has a tag team division. I'm trying to think. Okay, so I guess you had Sheamus and Cesaro, and you had the New Day, and then they went over to SmackDown. The Shield, that's injury. But man, earlier this year, the tag team division was so shitty. I mean, it was god awful. It was god awful. And the guys that did all the work, that did all the legwork, basically were the New Day and the Usos. So we had a lot of battles between those guys, right? You had some makeshift fucking tag teams and what have you, but for the most part, it stunk. They're just now getting the grasp of the tag team division for SmackDown. I mean, the Usos, they reinvented themselves. They're killing it. The New Day, they're now on SmackDown. I really, 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 really need them to focus on Big E as a singles guy. But other than that, they're killing it. They just brought up the Bludgeon Brothers. You got Gable and Benjamin that are making a little bit of noise. The Fashion Files, what they're doing with the Fashion Police, Fandango and Tyler Breeze is something to be commended. And along with the Ascension, the Lucha Dragons, they had a lot of promise, but they just couldn't get that over. I think they tried with the Vaudevillains. That was, man, it feels like right now, especially for SmackDown, is in a good place. they still have a long way to go. I mean, because it took them splitting up the Wyatt family and all that stuff too, and now they're back as the Bludgeon Brothers. And even in the WrestleMania, you had Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton as tag team champs. I mean, anyway, I only hope that next year that they get it with the tag teams. I mean, they got an influx of tag teams that will be showing up, especially with, you know, the Authors of Pain coming in. You got Sanity about to come up to the main roster, you know, and a couple of other guys, and they can make some makeshift tag teams as well. Just make them good. But my God, other than say the women's division and what they were fucking doing and what they are doing right now, the tag team division was the most dreadful thing to watch in 2017, and at the end it seemed to get a little grip there. In 2018, I hope. Oh yeah, the hype bros and all that stuff. I only hope that they move forward somehow in a positive direction and have both Raw and SmackDown with formidable tag teams and a good tag team division with actual tag teams that will keep you interested. Okay? The return of the fuck are they called? The return of it's gonna drive me crazy. Dash and Dawson. I'll just call him Dash and Dawson right now. Fuck it. Hopefully that'll be a positive for the Raw tag team division. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. Let's run through. I'm gonna run through Bray Wyatt. They can't get his fucking character right. Now he's going against Woken Matt. Maybe they can go in that whole Woken universe, that whole Bray Wyatt universe they tried with Randy Orton. Maybe that can help, but for some fucking reason, they just can't get it right. Finn Balor, another guy. The guy deserves a Universal Tag Team, a Universal belt rematch. He hasn't gotten his rematch. For some reason, that rematch clause does not apply to him. And he didn't lose it either. He had it taken away because of injury. Maybe they make, some crazy NFL rule and just go with it. You gotta, what's the word? You gotta survive the ground type fucking thing. The fact that he can't get a title rematch is insane. Not saying that he should win it back, but at least get a fucking shot at it again. But it just seems that they refuse to really pull the trigger, even though he's over. What they did with him and Kane is just kind of criminal. It's weird. Even the rivalry with Bray Wyatt was sort of weird, and they just abandoned that altogether after the whole Mumps episode, and they just moved on to something else, and then Balor moved on to something else. But between those two, they are fucking floundering, and because if it wasn't for the fact that people like both of them so much, they would be done. They'd be dunzos. Okay, so all right, Miz, the rise of the Miz. He cut that promo on Daniel Bryan. It was on to the races. They brought back Maurice, before then, but they brought back Maurice. He started fucking just cutting just crazy promos, and he took the Intercontinental belt, and he just made that fucking belt his. Like, he's like, fuck this, the Intercontinental belt is my shit. But if there was ever a moment that stood out, it was definitely that promo he cut on Daniel Bryan, and that changed everything for him. And he became a top guy. I mean, obviously he wasn't in there with Goldberg and fucking Brock Lesnar and well, little Roman Reigns, but he wasn't up there. But him as a character, probably the most polished character in the entire roster. and having Maurice as a valet didn't hurt. The Miz Taraj, nice. I hate the name, but he did the damn thing. He did an amazing job this year, and he's garnered a lot of respect. More respect I think he's ever had in his entire career. A guy in limbo, Randy Orton. My question with Randy Orton is, has he reached his limit? He's getting paid out the wazoo, man. He's in this sort of, he's not a mid-card guy. He's still a top guy, but he's in like this top guy B purgatory. And people still like him. He's still cool. But man, like, I think it's time to either shit or get out the pot with this guy. 2018, I don't see anything big happening for him in 2018. I just don't see it. This year, he did what he did. You know, he did the thing with Bray Wyatt, and I think that closes the book on Randy Orton to me. Like, he lost to Jinder Mahal several times. Right now, he has a partnership with Shinsuke Nakamura, it seems, against like the likes of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and it's just A, he works better as a heel, and B, but still, it's like, what is there left to do with him? That's my question. What is there left to do with Randy fucking Orton? Cena becomes a part-timer. He finally is accepted by the mainstream with all the work that he's been put in with like the True Grit show and Good Morning America and movies and things of that nature. He's finally hit the big time, and he's become any and everything that he fucking hates, and that's a fucking part-timer. I appreciate that he's a part-timer. I don't know why people give him such shit about him being a part-timer. I don't understand it. Like, bits and pieces of Cena is nice. It's extremely nice. So when he comes back and he's still John Cena, he's still like this kind of the man to beat, which is true. He's still the man to beat until otherwise. I don't give a fuck how many times Roman Reigns beats him. I don't give a fuck how many times Braun Strowman beats him or Brock Lesnar beats him. He's still the man to beat. He's still the guy. He's still the face of the WWE. When you think WWE, you don't think what Walk with Elias, which will be very soon, but you think fucking John Cena. He's still the man. He came back for Christmas, still the man. Right? And the fact that he's a part-timer now, I wish him all the success. He got a fucking movie out right now, Ferdinand, where he's the voice of some bull. He does some other stuff. Whatever, man. I'm super proud of him. But, like, the irony of him becoming a part-timer is something I think he's going to have to deal with for a while, because he gave The Rock such shit about it. And that's the thing, you know, as a shoot, too. Like, he was a real asshole that The Rock made it. And didn't, you know, he talked a lot of shit. And now he's going through that right now. That's the only thing that he's going to have to live down. But until then, sprinkle me some Cena, man. He ain't going away. He'll never be as big as The Rock. But just sprinkle him in every once in a while to sort of like just fuck with people every once in a while. I'll take that any day, rather than a fucking guy who just comes in with no stakes at all. There's stakes to his matches now, right? It's refreshing as all hell. The only thing left to do with John Cena now that he's a part-timer or something like that, just turn him heel. Just turn him heel. I think it's okay. It's completely fine to go Hollywood Cena on a motherfucker. All right? So, fashion fouls, I talked a little bit about that. That was pretty cool to give to Fandango and to Tyler Breeze. It's been fun skits. I think part of that even derived from that little bootleg thing they did, Southpaw Regional Wrestling. You know, that was like maybe an offshoot to that a little bit, but they brought in the Ascension, and they're still going with it a little bit, but it's fun stuff. And I'm glad it's getting over the way it is. Those two guys need something. They're too talented to just have by the wayside. Rusev Day, just as of late, right? Rusev is getting over like you wouldn't believe. I watched last SmackDown, and 'cause they did everything to this guy. They took away his woman. They took away his Bulgarian gimmick. They just took away everything from this guy. They had this guy go undefeated for an entire year and come in on WrestleMania on a tank, right? To basically join the League of Nations and jobbing out to like whoever, whatever. They tried to give him a resurge, and then that just they gave him back the U.S. belt, and then only to I think lose it again to I think the Roman Reigns. I mean, it's just they won't pull the trigger. But he's such a cool guy. I mean, if you follow his social media, and if you watch Total Divas, you find out the guy is probably the most genuinely amazing dude on the roster. And then you find out that, even more so, his charisma and his wrestling ability are starting to mesh together, and they keep throwing these dumb gimmicks. Another one of those, like, chicken salad situations, right? He took the worst that the WWE is throwing at him, and he's making it awesome. The least likely tandem that I would even imagine to even be a thing would be Aiden English and fucking Rusev. And it's probably the most over tag team in the entire, over the Usos, over the New Day, everything. I just saw last week's SmackDown, right? Just last Tuesday's SmackDown. The ovation they got in Chicago, it was amazing. I mean, I went back and just watched it a couple of times. They went nuts for that shit. Rusev Day chants, I don't know, man. I still feel like the WWE is still going to keep him at bay, man. Even with the success of Rusev Day and all this shit, man. I think they're just going to try to throw stupid, silly gimmicks at him until maybe he quits. We'll see. We've seen it done before with the likes of Sandow and stuff like that. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. I hope at some point they give him back Lana as a valet, and they give him another push, but this time a babyface push. This time a super babyface push, and I think it'd go a long way, even more so than he's not evil no more. We don't see him as the evil brute anymore. He's so cool. He's really, really cool. Dolph Ziggler, again, a guy who's he's been the gatekeeper for the past year, and just what the fuck? If anything, I just tune him out when he's on my television screen, and just recently he won the U.S. belt and he walked out. We'll see what happens with that shit. Sorry about that. I got a Twitter update of some sorts. But we'll see. It's probably the first intriguing thing he's done in like 2 or 3 years. Him walking out. Woken Matt, I spoke about that. The whole TNA, the whole lawsuits and all that stuff. Broken Matt, all this stuff, gimmick. He's finally woken Matt, and we'll see what happens with that. Okay, and Shane McMahon. Too much Shane fucking man. Too much Shane McMahon. I don't know who's fucking worse, Shane McMahon or fucking Stephanie McMahon. They both have become the worst fucking things in wrestling. Because and I'll speak on this. I'll just throw them both together because I have them back to back. Because even in my thing, I have Stephanie is the worst thing in wrestling ever, right? And I'll lump this. You know what? I'm gonna lump this all together because after that, I have the Authority storyline has to go. So you look at Shane McMahon, who's getting all these fucking top matches with all these top guys, and now you can't get him off the TV for any reason whatsoever. Whether it's his feud with fucking Kevin Owens, whether his fucking thing with Daniel Bryan, whether, you know, him wanting to goddamn fight The Undertaker, him wanting to do all this bullshit, all this stuff. It's like, you're not a wrestler, man. You're nothing. Like, why you're on my TV so much? At first, when I thought SmackDown was gonna have Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon, I thought it was just like, oh man, this is gonna sprinkle them in every once in a while and it'd be cool. That was not the case. That was not the case at all. They fucking they overdid him. He overdoes himself. It's fucking it's numbing. It's numbing. And you look at guys, and you know, the least worry that, and even AJ Styles, the least of the worries of AJ Styles and your Nakamura's and your Rusev's is fucking Jinder Mahal. That's the least of their worries. The biggest worry to any of those guys trying to make a name for themselves, especially on the SmackDown brand, is fucking Shane McMahon. Okay? He will not go the fuck away. At first, again, it was cool. It was him and Daniel Bryan kind of broing it out and get the fuck out of there. And then it became the fucking Shane McMahon show. And I think it all started, even with this year, with the AJ Styles feud. It all started there. It all started at fucking WrestleMania. AJ Styles versus fucking Shane McMahon. Get out of town with that bullshit, man. Nobody wanted to see that crap. I didn't want to see that crap. And now you can't pay fucking Shane McMahon to get off the television. To get off, you know, a fucking 25-minute match on a pay-per-view that deserved to be given to someone else. You know, they talk about, you know, the idea of running a wrestling, you know, company, whether it's Vern Gagne or motherfuckers down in Texas, or what they did with Crockett Promotions, or anything, you know, people who had who did it, the creative, like the people you trust the most are it's yourself to run a company. So you put yourself in these top positions, right? You know, like, because you trust yourself to make sure that this shit works. It doesn't have to happen so much now. It's just a WWE. You're not competing with anyone else. And you got a lot of guys, a lot of seasoned veterans that are fucking just ready. They're just ready to just hand them the rock. Hand them the fucking ball. They refuse to do it. Vince McMahon refuses to do it. Fucking Triple H refuses to do it. Shane McMahon and Lord fucking Stephanie McMahon. I don't want to go too much into a rant, but she is the worst thing in wrestling right now. The worst thing. She fucking cuts down all the wrestlers. She claims to be part of this women's revolution, or be the foundation of the women's revolution, but she makes her fucking, that women's roster look like mere peasants all the time. And just what they did with that whole Royal Rumble announcement, where you got an all-out fucking brawl, and just her presence alone makes them stop and eventually hold hands and hug each other. Like, that's there's no word for that, actually. There's no excuse for that either. Like, that's utter garbage. I'm sick of the authority. I'm sick of the authority fucking storyline in all wrestling promotions. I don't give a fuck. You don't have to deal with this shit in NXT. You know, you don't have to ever deal with that. There's a guy on top. There's a manager, there's a general manager, which is Steven Regal, right? And he hardly ever comes out. And you know, they get him here and he'll make a thing. He does not get in the way of any of the wrestlers. Any and all storylines that is happening in NXT is wrestling related, period. When there's an announcement to be made, there's an announcement to be made. But there's no authoritative presence in NXT. There's no authoritative presence in New Japan. And they tried it at one point over at ROH, but they saw that it was a bunch of crap. So no longer do we have to deal, because Nigel McGuinness was getting more and more involved as like a character, but no more. That is a wrestling driven fucking promotion. I'm not sure about NXT. I couldn't tell you about NXT. Sorry, TNA or Impact Wrestling or what have you. I couldn't tell you about that. Maybe they have an authoritative figure, maybe they don't. But for the most part, when it comes to Raw, when it comes to fucking SmackDown, and the idea of the McMahons and the Triple H's and this storyline that no one can fucking have balls and stand up for themselves against these people, it's just utter bullshit. It was really refreshing to see Kevin Owens beat the living crap out of Vince McMahon, because you'll never see that happen with fucking with Stephanie. And if Shane catches a beat down, he catches several power bombs, he's just gonna get back up and walk out, and he's gonna show up the next day, the next week, with no bandages, no nothing. He probably won't even address getting beat down. Right? That shit just drives me fucking crazy. Drives me crazy. Too much Shane. Stephanie needs to go. And that fucking authority storyline, it's been going on for fucking 20 years, man. 20 years of this crap. Oh my God. All right. Women's Revolution. Is a con. There is no women's revolution. They brought up some really talented women. They gave them more time. But all they did was bunch them all together. All they did was just bunch them all together. And no one has any identity. No one stands out. No one's the ass kicker. You have these stars in Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair and Bayley and your Sasha Banks, right? We get it. Also with Paige, we get it. These women should be some big stars. They should be huge stars, especially Becky Lynch. Out of all the people with all the progress that they've made since they've been called up, Becky Lynch is a wonder, right? And they didn't know what to do with her. They just couldn't keep her the women's champ on SmackDown and just do it. They decided to run with Alexa Bliss. Now, people like Alexa Bliss, I dig her, but I don't buy her as like this champ. I just don't. And she's sort of snarly. There's nothing that screams wrestler to me about her. But any and everything screams wrestler about fucking Becky Lynch. And it's just like, she should be the center between her and Charlotte Flair. I think those two. Not so much Bayley. I think Bayley, her image, her character is so damaged. And Sasha Banks, I don't know what the fuck with Sasha Banks. I don't even know what the fuck with Sasha Banks anymore. But like, Becky Lynch is a badass. Charlotte Flair is getting there. And, Naomi, I think the glow thing, it's all well and good. I was excited about it at first, but there's no depth to her character, and there's no progress to her character either. They focused just recently with what the hell is her name? Heart Foundation, whatever the fuck. Oh my God, I hate when I do this. I'm so sorry, guys. Natalia. Just they try to run with Natalia, and I didn't even know she was champ at one point. And yet still, you still bunch these girls up 5 ways, 6 ways, 8 ways, 13,000 ways. Matches with these people, and it's just they had a Hell in a Cell, right? They were given a Money in the Bank. And now we have a Royal Rumble, and I'm not buying any of it. I couldn't even think of the name of the Money in the Bank holder a second ago. And then they just brought up 5 more women, 7 more women, along with, Asuka. They just brought those people up. They just had a fucking Mae Young Classic full of a bunch of women that they're not going to do anything with. They still want to call it the fucking Women's Revolution. And you know who they're talking about? And if she's not already signed, she's coming. It's fucking Ronda Rousey. The Women's Revolution, I'm happy for these girls to get all this time, but like they are fucked to me. They're beyond fucked. And you got a bunch of people calling the shots and writing and doing things for these women that shouldn't be anywhere near doing this shit for. And they signed too many women for only a small portion of time. If they could have just focused on at least 6, when they brought them in as TLC and TBC and AOL and all that shit, just like that good 9 women, and just really make them into complete badasses, I think we would have something here. But we don't anymore. We just have this onslaught. We got a Royal Rumble, man. A fucking Royal Rumble of women that get absolutely no airtime. And if they do get airtime, it's shared airtime. Oh my God. I just mentioned the Mae Young Classic, which ended in a Kairi Sane, Shayna Baszler final that Kairi Sane won. She's now in a fatal 4-way to see who I think either becomes #1 contender. You know what? It's such a clusterfuck. I don't even fucking care. I don't care. I don't even fucking care. And I'm sorry, but I'm about to cut this Women's Revolution rant short. But like, none of it makes sense. None of it makes sense. You know what else doesn't make sense? The fucking cruiserweights. It fucking sucks. I have nothing to say. It fucking sucks. They brought in fucking Enzo Amore, and he became the champ. The only shining light out of this entire thing is fucking Drew Gulak. For some reason, this motherfucker is becoming one of my favorites right now. You got a couple of talented guys in there. They tried to do this, but now we have the fucking Zoe Train. And this piece of shit wrestler who shouldn't be sniffing a championship. He shouldn't be sniffing a fucking wrestling ring for that matter, let alone a championship. And I get it. He's a personality, but like I can't get into him. I thought he had promise. I liked him at one point. They turned him heel. He's a waste. He's a wash. And as champion and what they've done to that who wants to go there? They're talking about possibly they're bringing in Hideo Itami. They're thinking about bringing in, there's talks of Finn Balor. Who wants to go to this shit? Your top guys, Austin Aries, Neville, they fucking bolted. They didn't want no parts of that shit. Cedric Alexander is like one of the only glimmering hopes. It's just like it's horrible. 305 Live, again, it doesn't even make it in the top 20. The way they managed and booked and did this entire division. And I remember talking about it, thinking like, give it a chance, give it time, see what happens with it. I did. And they absolutely failed. The 205 brand is a failed project. And it has nothing to do with the wrestlers. The wrestlers are not to blame with this. They are not to blame to this. It's the fucking WWE. They set them up to fail, and that's what was happening. They're failing. I say blow it up. I say because it's basically like a mini WWE. They may as well be midgets for all that matters. Blow it up. Get your best, sprinkle them in the main roster, but I think the 205 is done. It has to go, especially and you got some guys at NXT who are just going to be thrown right in there. Your Bobby Fish, your Adam Coles, you know what I'm saying? All those guys, all those little guys, because they don't come up like Lars Sullivan, like that every once, as much as they used to. It's just blow it up. Also blow up all those goddamn everything's a three-way. I've talked about this a million times years ago on a Peter Talk SmackDown. This was like a year and a half ago, and I was talking about how the three ways, the four ways, even the tag team three ways and four ways, it's too much. These matches aren't memorable. It's no one stands out anymore. 3 ways, 4 ways, 5 ways, 6 ways, 18 ways. It's just too much. I hope with 2018 they cut that shit down, but I doubt it. I think every fucking episode is gonna be like 3 ways, and every pay-per-view is gonna have 3 ways, it's 4 ways, 5 ways. It's crazy. And with that, what's left? All right, I got one more thing to talk about, and that's people who left the WWE. And it, Rosa Mendez, who basically having a family. You also have Austin Aries. He left. He fucking bailed. Neville bailed. Jack Swagger bailed. Cody Rhodes, even though it was late last year, but I consider it, this year what he's done on the Indies has been amazing. But he got the fuck out. Ava Marie got the fuck out, right? And if you look at each one of these people, it's all for the best. All of it's for the best. And maybe I'm missing some people, but Rosa was doing nothing but getting a paycheck. I mean, nothing wrong with getting a paycheck, but Rosa Mendez was nothing, and she was a waste of space. She was getting older. She probably was going to have to leave anyway. Probably embarrassed on her way out, but she ended up having a child. Oh man, I forgot. Adam Rose. That was a guy that was let loose. I forgot him earlier. He ran into a domestic dispute issue, and WWE just wasn't having it. So they cut him loose. But people, Austin Aries and Neville, they valued themselves more than what the 205 division offered them. And I don't know what's happening. I don't know if they're doing anything on the indies, but like as long as they're not on that roster being treated like idiots, I feel like they're better off. It's not like those guys are like hard off for cash. They got their paycheck. I guarantee they got their money, especially Neville, more so than Austin Aries, because Neville's been in the WWE main roster for longer. And he was a main event guy. He was the main event guy for 205 Live for a hot minute. So who's to say what kind of contract, renegotiations that he made? But even with whatever he had, he walked out. He's not on the indies, I think. And as long as he's not made into a jackass, I think he's better off. Cody Rhodes, again, look what's happening with him on the indies. It doesn't even have to go without saying. And Eva Marie, who I was warming up to. I mean, I even made an Eva Mania shirt. Like I like the idea of Eva Marie. I think she got popped for like something. Like I think something. I can't even really call. I don't know if it's drug related or something related, but like she has a lot of upside in terms of just being a character, like an untalented character. I think she could probably go somewhere. She looks like $1 million. She could go somewhere other than porn. She can go into the whole. She can go the reality television show route. I mean, she was on Total Divas, a major player on on Total Divas. Who's to say she can't do that shit on her own? Or like, I don't know. If I was a producer of something, I would just bring her in. I mean, she has it. I mean, like maybe soap operas. who cares? I just think that like what she's doing, not on the WWE main roster, she's probably better off, right? It wasn't like she was, they kept pushing her debut date or something like that, whatever. I think they probably got cold feet with her. But she was going to be a big star, a heel. She was going to get a lot of heel heat, but nevertheless, she was going to do the damn thing. And that's about it, man. Like the WWE had a really interesting year. And if I was to grade it, and I'll say this, man, and it's a low grade because something I didn't even bring up at the beginning of the podcast is that WWE Raw, at least Raw, used to be appointment watching for me. I used to when I was doing the Peter Talks Raw, I was coming home and sitting on my couch and streaming it, right? I was bootlegging it like every fucking day. Like every Monday, I would come home and I would watch, and from 8 to fucking 11:15, 11:30, I would watch this fucking show, right? I would watch the show, right? And then the more I was watching and the more like the bullshit just kept happening, and the more the garbage, the crap, and I still watch it today. I'm not saying that I don't watch the show. I watch the show. I just don't watch it live. It's not appointment watching for me anymore. The average time of me watching Monday Night Raw is Tuesday nights and Wednesday or Wednesday nights, depending on my schedule and when I can set aside 2.5 hours to watch the programming. And I fall asleep watching it too. I fall asleep watching Raw and SmackDown. And it's not because I'm tired. I mean, I used to fucking just watch the show without batting an eye. But then that turned into me being on my phone, being on my pad, it became background noise. And it is still to this day background noise. The reason why I still watch it, the reason why I still follow it is because I'm a wrestling fan. It's kind of hard to let go. And for me to even do this podcast is because I enjoy talking about it. It's fun. It's fun stuff. It's great to meet other wrestling fans, at least the ones who aren't the assholes, right? But I'm going to grade WD a D. It's been a D. It's not a fail because there's been some cool shit that has been happening. But for what they've done, for what they've come from, let's just say just 5 years ago, right? I ain't even talking about like the ruthless aggression. I ain't even talking about the fucking Attitude Era. I'm talking about just 5 fucking years ago, right? When The Undertaker was still, kicking ass and taking names. You know what I'm saying? It was like the end of Shawn Michaels' career, and how that went out. It was so many cool things that still and players, and less of Stephanie and Shane and Vince and Triple H. There was so many good things about it. That's what drew me back in. I became a wrestling fan again because I left. I basically jumped the Attitude Era because I was sick of the same players. And people talk about how great it is. I don't think it was that great. I think there were some players that came out of it, like The Rock and Jericho and Mankind, that to this day, the fucking Undertaker, that to this day are the fabric of wrestling history right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I tried to watch that shit again on the network, man. And I was like, man, I got to take this shit with a grain of salt, man. I got to take this shit in doses. Because I thought I was like, yeah, I'm just going to watch this shit and catch up. But I didn't want to watch all that stuff. There was a lot of crappy filler during that era. A lot of crappy filler. And you were always in the main event scene dealing with the same 3 to 4 players. That was either Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, and Chris Jericho. That was it. Up to the Ruthless Aggression period, you got more Guerrero, and you got you got Edge, and you got again, Chris Benoit, and you got you had people like Brock Lesnar coming in, which is all well and good, but like just fucking 5 years ago, we had less of a lot of things, less of what the fuck is happening here, less, way less, and between, I would much rather deal with a Divas division where they get in, do their little fucking 2-minute matches, and get the fuck out of there. Maybe a broad panties match, fucking pillows, mud jello fights. Because it's what it is. It wasn't hiding the fact that the women were nothing there for show. They were tits and ass. It was what it was. And now it's just more tits and ass. It's more titties and more ass. And they're all in there together all the fucking time, whenever, and they're bunched up like kids in a school. I would much rather have these people trying to come across as respectable individuals and wrestlers. I would much rather see what really they are than what people are trying to make me believe what the fuck they are. Right? Women's revolution, my ass. This three-way party, it's just garbage. So much shame, and the thing, the Stephanie thing is just crazy. The Roman Reigns project, it sucks. It's just garbage. It's the worst thing next to the fucking three-ways and Stephanie McMahon than anything. I'm not anti-Roman by any means. I'm not anti-Roman. I just think that what we're dealing with is this experiment. We're not even fucking fans anymore. We're not even wrestling fans anymore when it comes to the handling of Roman Reigns. If anything, we're observers of this thing. We're observing this thing, this Roman Reigns guy. We're taking part in this thing because we're hella meta, right? And regardless of how we feel and how we react to this guy, it's like the WWE refuses to budge in the way that we as the fans would like to see him go. And again, we're not bookers, we're not people who have a history in booking stuff, but we do watch the wrestling. We watch the wrestling from when we were kids up to when we were adults. We don't have to take a bump to have a general idea of how this wrestling shit gets done. We have many templates out there to say, hey, A plus B equals C. 1 plus 2 equals 3. This is not rocket science. And I feel like any and all those templates, and it's one thing to break the mold, but at least build another one worth a goddamn. It's like tearing down the fucking, ripping up the Mona Lisa, right? It's like taking the Mona Lisa, ripping it to shreds, and replacing it with a drawing of a motherfucker in duck face, right? It's like taking like Eiffel Tower. It's like tearing down the Eiffel Tower and building some piece of crap thing. You're not replacing a good model with an even better model. You're replacing, it's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like dating a supermodel, breaking up with a supermodel to date someone you met at Walmart, Like, I don't understand the logic of the WWE. It's not appointment television. Even the pay-per-views aren't even appointment television, appointment things anymore. I'd much rather watch football. And football season's almost over. And maybe, just maybe, I'll watch the pay-per-views. But I'd be too busy fucking getting a drink and socializing and being human. Because I work my ass off. I don't want to have to be sitting in my house on a Sunday night. My hours are pretty liberal. If I don't have to get up, I don't have to get up early every fucking Monday and go to work. I can go and fucking hang out and kick it with my friends. I DJ on the weekends, I don't get the chance to fucking mingle and meet up with people and talk and fucking, enjoy my time. Sunday nights are that time. And watching pay-per-views are not part of that time any longer. My Monday nights are not part of that time any longer. My Tuesday nights are not part of that time any longer. And anyone who does use this shit anyone who does continue to make this appointment watching, and I say exclude people doing podcasts and doing live feeds and all that stuff, excluding all those people because they're running a business. I'm talking about the regular Joe. When I'm not doing a podcast, the people who listen to podcasts, the people who don't do anything, they just want to watch wrestling. From anything from the WWE all the way down to fucking Evolve, right? They just love wrestling. How the fuck? Even guys like Solid Monster sounds off. He doesn't watch it live anymore. And that's my favorite podcast to listen to. Outside of Wade Keller, that guy doesn't even watch it live anymore. So I wonder, and it's my question, how do you continue to watch this live? There's the technology's out there. There's plenty of websites that upload almost immediately after each hour. How can you sit and say and justify sitting for 3 hours and 15 minutes and watch this shit? I gotta watch it in bits. I'll watch an hour here, I'll watch an hour there. I got a whole week to take all this shit in and then listen to like commentary from my favorite podcasts or what have you. But I judge this product a D for all the things that I mentioned earlier. The 3 ways, the 4 ways, and 5 ways. The shitty tag team division. What they did with the women's division. The authority storyline still existing. Too much Shane. The fucking... That is... What is Stephanie McMahon? And the Roman Reigns project. All those things alone just drags the product. And people look back and go like, oh, Jinder Mahal's reign as WWE champion. Dude, that was probably one of the only reasons why I watched. To see what was going to happen with him. Right? Just to see what direction and what could possibly happen with this. Because it could have either, just went to the moon. Or what happened. And I don't think anything bad happened. It's just like, okay, your time is done. It's time to move on to someone else. And now he's given a U.S. championship opportunity. And I hope he wins. Honestly, I hope he wins the motherfucker because he will be a formidable fucking heel to all of the mid-card. To all of them. All the mid-card baby faces shooting at Jinder Mahal as a fucking American-hating American champion. It makes all the sense on the planet. You may have to turn some people, and I made a prediction that Baron Corbin would turn babyface at some point. I think he'd do really well as a good babyface, and he'll be a great babyface against Jinder Mahal. I don't think the wrestling would be all that great, but like just take the reins off those guys and just let them not sound so goddamn scripted. And I think you could work miracles. Even with the likes of Jinder Mahal versus fucking Baron Corbin. I've talked for 2 hours and 8 minutes. 9 minutes going on. This will be the last time this happens. That was all a mouthful. I like to think that you're still listening and you enjoyed every bit of this. Me forgetting names and getting caught up in my words. Again, this is almost like a straight freestyle, like, fucking shoot. Maybe get my shit jumbled up. I didn't drink any water before doing this like an idiot. But I hope you enjoyed this, man. And if you're listening still to this moment, if it's anything I left out, hit me up on Twitter. It is LINJAPANESE. L in Japanese. One word, one phrase. L in Japanese. Hit me up there if I missed anything. And maybe I'll make another video talking about the things that I missed out as a follow-up to the year-end review of WWE 2017. Or I could just answer your questions on Twitter and what I think. They added more characters to how you can answer a question, and I could probably do that. Or I just make a little video. Responding to your questions. So again, LINJAPANESE. Hit me up. Going into the new year, the new show will be called Glorified House Show with Peter Day, or whatever. Fuck, I don't need to have some nickname or anything, but yeah, with Peter Day. All right, and I think I'm pretty sure the first will be a review of the Royal Rumble. So look out for that. The week before the Royal Rumble, look out for a review and a prediction. I'm not doing a prediction of what's going to happen in 2018. I'll leave that to the other podcasters to do that shit for. And I'm not gonna do like best matches or whatever. Just way too much goddamn wrestling to sort of bring it down to like 10 matches. I mean, there's ones that stood out, but again, that's not on me because it's all arbitrary. It's on the other podcast to talk about. But that's it, guys. It's been fun. This is always going to be fun, and I'm looking forward to the new format. And I'm looking forward to getting back in touch with all my old fans who used to really give me love for the Peter Talks. Look for more live reactions. It could be delayed reactions, but I'm not going to have seen the match prior. But sometimes I'm going to watch it live. I mean, obviously, I'm going to watch the Royal Rumble live, and I'll watch SummerSlam live, and stuff like that, and maybe bigger acts, and bigger, matches, things live. But for the most part, you still see all that stuff. Anyway, thank you so much. Watch out for those foreign objects.